You've been lied to, taught that being a man is about domination, performance, control. But real power in relationships, real respect, comes from something else entirely. It is not about how fast you move. It is about how present you are, because the men women remember. The men women respect are not just skilled, they're intentional. And when it comes to intimacy, the ones who take the time to understand her body, honor her boundaries, and value her experience, they don't just win her attention. They win her devotion. Let us make something clear. There is nothing more powerful, more respected, or more unforgettable to a woman than a man who knows how to slow down. A man who doesn't treat intimacy as a race, but as an experience. And that experience begins long before any clothes come off. It starts in how you look at her, how you listen, how you move when there is no agenda. You see, the male ego has been fed a false story. That dominance equals desirability. That speed equals skill. But the truth? The truth is women don't respect a man just because he wants her. She respects the man who takes the time to understand her in psychology. This is called attunement, its ability to be deeply aware of another person's needs and emotional state. And studies show that men who are emotionally attuned to their partners create stronger, more trusting, more fulfilling relationships. In intimacy, this shows up as patience, as presence, as the willingness to explore, not conquer. When a man is emotionally aware, he doesn't rush. He listens to her body, not just her words. He notices how she breathes, how she reacts to touch. He is not looking to impress her with performance. He is looking to connect deeply, meaningfully, and respectfully. And that kind of man earns respect without ever needing to demand it, in a world full of fast, distracted, ego-driven encounters. The man who slows down becomes unforgettable. The man who makes her feel safe, not just physically, but emotionally, builds a bond that most men will never understand. This is the man she trusts. This is the man she talks about long after he has gone. Not because he was flashy, but because he was present. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know every technique or script. You just need to care enough to pay attention. Women aren't complicated. Cree just tired of not being seen. So if you want her respect, don't try to prove your masculinity. Prove your maturity. Because the strongest man in the room isn't the loudest. He is the one who knows that pleasure isn't just about what he can get. It is about what he is willing to give. There is a myth that has been passed down through culture, locker rooms, music, even some misinformed relationship advice, that a real man takes what he wants. That if he focuses too much on her pleasure, he is being submissive, soft, or somehow less masculine. Let me say this as clearly as I can. Your mindset is broken, because nothing earns a woman's respect more than a man who cares about her pleasure just as much as his own. Not as a performance, not as a favor, but as a shared experience. That is not weakness. That Swiss-Dump's ecological research confirms this. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Sex Research found that the most sexually satisfied women had one consistent factor in common: a partner who was genuinely invested in their experience. Not just the act, but the connection, the communication, the consideration, the maturity. Why is this important? Because pleasure for women is not automatic. It is psychological, emotional, physical, all at once. And when a man understands that, when he shows up fully engaged in giving, not just taking, something happens. Trust grows. Respect deepens. And the intimacy becomes more than just physical. It becomes transformational. But here is what immature men get wrong. They think giving her pleasure somehow places her above them, that it flips the power dynamic, That being generous makes him look less like a man. That S insecurity talking. That S ego. That S fear, but real confidence. Kind of confidence that gets inside her mind, not just her body, shows up when you don't need to dominate, you don't need to chase control, you choose to create an experience where both of you are seen, heard, and satisfied. And let me tell you something powerful. When a man focuses on mutual pleasure, he is doing more than just being nice. He is creating emotional safety. He is proving that intimacy with him isn't just about performance, twitch is about presence. He becomes someone she can open up to, trust, admire. Because women don't fall in love with selfishness. They don't stay loyal to men who make them feel like an afterthought. They remember the man who made them feel like a priority, a partner, an equal. So, no, mutual pleasure isn't weak. It is a sign of emotional maturity. It is a reflection of deep self-worth. And it is one of the greatest sources of lasting respect in any relationship. Any man can take, but the one who gives with intention. June makes sure she leaves the moment feeling seen, safe, and satisfied. He doesn't just win her body. He earns something far more powerful, her loyalty, her softness, her deepest respect. There is a quiet kind of strength that every woman can feel. It is not in your arms. It is not in your voice. It is in your restraint, in your awareness, in your ability to pause, not because you have to, but because you choose to. That is the mark of a confident man. That is the man who earns her respect, not just her attention. We live in a culture obsessed with speed, dominance, and results. But the truth is, real connection, real intimacy, just not a race to the finish line. And any man who thinks it is reveals exactly how immature he is. The mature, grounded, emotionally secure man understands this. A woman as comfort is the foundation of her desire. It is not just a nice idea. It is science. Neuroscience shows that a woman has capacity for arousal, pleasure, and release is deeply connected to her sense of safety. Not just physical safety, but emotional safety. If she feels rushed, ignored, objectified, or invisible, her nervous system literally shuts down. Stress hormones rise. Her body tenses, and even if she goes along with it, her mind checks out. You may be in the room with her body, but she is not there with you. But the man who earns her respect, he pays attention, he slows down, he tunes in, not because he is trying to impress her, but because he understands that real pleasure is relational, not mechanical. He listens, he asks, he observes, he stops when she stiffens, he adjusts when her energy shifts. He doesn't take it personally. He doesn't make her feel guilty or pressured. That is strength, that is confidence, that is leadership, because here is the truth. A selfish lover is an insecure lover, one who rushes through the experience to serve his ego, one who confuses release with connection. But the man who can delay his own gratification, who puts her emotional and physical state first, she communicates something powerful without saying a word. I've got nothing to prove. Am already enough. And when a woman feels that, when she knows you're not chasing a moment, but building an experience, when she feels respected, not rushed, cherished, not cornered, she lets go, she opens up, she trusts you. And when she trusts you, her body follows. That is when intimacy goes from ordinary to unforgettable. That is when you become the one she remembers, respects, and returns to, not because of what you did, but because of who you were in that moment. A protector, a provider, not just financially, but emotionally. A man she can feel safe with. A man who doesn't need to dominate to feel powerful. Because your real power was in how you chose to lead. Due to patience, presence, and control. And that earns more respect than any performance ever could. Let us confront this head on. Too many men are afraid to learn, afraid to ask, afraid to explore a woman's body beyond what they've seen in movies or heard in jokes. But here's what separates the respected man from the replaceable one. He is not afraid of education. He doesn't rely on guesswork. He studies her, not like an object, but like a language, because her body speaks, if you know how to listen, in fact. Scientific research confirms what too many men ignore. Most women do not reach fulfillment through penetration alone. Studies from the Journal of Sexual Medicine have shown that over 70% of women require consistent, specific, and often external stimulation to reach peak pleasure. And yet, most men never learn what this actually means. They assume they know, they guess, they perform, but they don't connect. Why? Because they confuse curiosity with weakness. They believe asking questions makes them look unsure. But let me be clear. A man who asks is a man who grows. A man who listens becomes unforgettable. Because when you take the time to truly understand a woman's anatomy, not just in theory, but in practice, you communicate something powerful. You matter. Your pleasure matters. Your experience matters. And that right there, that's where respect is born. You see, there is no shame in studying her cues. No weakness in asking her what she likes, what she needs, or what makes her feel seen. In fact, that kind of communication is where intimacy becomes electric. You earn her trust because you didn't assume. You didn't bulldoze. You learned. An immature man thinks anatomy is obvious. A mature man knows it as nuanced. An immature man tries to impress. A mature man tries to understand. And women? They can feel the difference immediately. She knows when you're present, when you're exploring with care, when you're paying attention not just to what you want, but to what she is feeling. And when she feels that, her guard drops, her walls lower. Her respect grows because women don't remember the man who got the job done. They remember the man who took the time to read the details of their body like a map, every curve, every breath, every pause, not because he had to, but because he wanted to understand her as a whole, not just as a moment. So no, it is not vulgar to learn her body. It is not shameful to ask questions. It is not embarrassing to admit you don't know it all. What is embarrassing is pretending you do, proving you don't. The respected man values her anatomy, not because of what it can do for him, but because he honors what it means to her. That is where the respect lives, in the curiosity. Let us dismantle the myth right now. Sexual generosity is not about being submissive. It is not about being a people pleaser. It is not about giving up your power. It is about knowing how to use it. Because the truth is, generosity in intimacy is one of the clearest signs of emotional intelligence. A man with emotional intelligence doesn't need to be loud, arrogant, or controlling to feel strong. He doesn't need to take more than he gives to prove anything. He walks into the room already whole, already centered, already powerful. And because of that power, he knows he can pour into his woman, not out of obligation, but out of choice. Here is what science tells us. Emotionally intelligent people, especially in relationships, later better at recognizing their partner as emotional cues, responding with empathy, and creating environments where mutual satisfaction thrives. A 2021 review in the Personality and Social Psychology review confirmed that emotional intelligence predicts not only higher relationship satisfaction, but also deeper intimacy and trust during sex. In other words, the man who is generous in bed, he is not just good at sex. He is good at connecting. He is good at reading energy. He is good at adjusting his rhythm to match hers. And that takes presence. That takes awareness, That takes ego control. Let us be honest. Most men aren't either. They're still stuck in the mindset that sex is something they win. Something they take. They chase climax like it as a trophy and forget there as a human being on the other side of the experience. But that kind of man, he doesn't get respected, he gets tolerated. Now compare him to the man who checks in, who listens to her breathing, who slows down when she tenses up, who keeps going, not just until he is satisfied, but until she is seen, heard, known. That man becomes unforgettable. And here is the irony. When you give freely, when you offer pleasure not from neediness, but from grounded presence, you don't lose anything. You gain everything. You become the safest place she knows, the one she trusts with her body and her emotions. And that trust, that devotion, that depth of connection, that is the kind of power you can't fake. Generosity in intimacy doesn't mean you're soft. It means you're secure. It doesn't mean you're losing yourself. It means you repenting the space for both of you to win. And she sees that, she feels it, and she respects it at a level most men will never reach. Not because you demanded her submission, but because you earned her surrender through presence, patience, and power. Real men don't just take. They know that what they give, with intention, with care, with emotional intelligence, will always come back tenfold. And that is the man she respects. That is the man she opens up to. That is the man she'll never forget.